The cabin hummed with the quiet monotony of a transatlantic flight. Outside, the sky stretched endlessly, a seamless canvas of indigo and silver, dotted with stars that seemed close enough to touch. Inside, passengers dozed under dimmed lights, earbuds in, blankets pulled tight. Business travelers scrolled through emails. Families whispered over snack trays. No one paid attention to the woman in seat 14C that she sat perfectly still, eyes fixed on the wing, her hands folded in her lap. She hadn't spoken since boarding. Not to the flight attendant offering water, not to the man beside her who'd tried small talk about turbulence, not even when the child behind her kicked her seat, twice. Her silence wasn't rude, it was absolute, like a stone in a river, unmoved by the current around her. Her name was Elena Voss. At least, that's what her boarding pass said. To the world. She was a civilian, a former aerospace engineer turned remote consultant, traveling alone from London to New York for a conference she didn't care about. But the truth sat deeper, coiled beneath her calm exterior like a dormant wire waiting for a spark. She hadn't flown commercially in 7 years. Not since the incident over the Black S, at 30,000 feet, the autopilot held steady. Captain Mark Rennick, a veteran with 30 years in the sky, unbuckled his seatbelt just long enough to stretch. He'd been feeling off since takeoff, dizzy, nauseous, but chalked it up to a late-night whiskey and poor sleep. Just need to walk it off, he muttered to his co-pilot, First Officer Daniel Cho. He never made it to the galley. Mid-aisle, his knees buckled. A choked gasp escaped him as he collapsed, striking the carpeted floor with a thud that silenced the cabin's ambient murmur. Gasps followed. A woman screamed. Flight attendants rushed forward, radios crackling. Captain down. Medical emergency. We need a doctor. Panic rippled through the cabin like static electricity. Oxygen masks dangled and used. This wasn't decompression, but something far more insidious. Human fragility at altitude. First Officer Cho's voice trembled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor medical situation. Please remain seated. We're diverting to Gander, Newfoundland. Estimated landing in 40 minutes. But 40 minutes was too long. Cho was competent but green. He'd logged barely 800 hours in the Boeing 777. And now, alone in the cockpit, with a failing captain and 287 souls depending on him, his hand shook on the yoke. Back in 14C, Elena didn't flinch. She watched the chaos unfold through the reflection in the window. Attendants performing CPR, passengers filming on phones, the co-pilot's panicked silhouette in the cockpit doorway. Her jaw tightened just once. A decision made in a heartbeat. She unbuckled. "Ma'am, please stay seated," a flight attendant urged, blocking the aisle. Elena met her eyes. "I'm a pilot." The attendant hesitated. "Commercial?" "No," Elena said, stepping forward. "Military. Former USAF. I've flown this altitude and worse." She didn't wait for permission. The cockpit door hissed open. Cho spun around, eyes wide. "You can't be in here." "I can," Elena said, voice low but commanding. "And you need me." She scanned the instruments in one fluid motion. Altitude, heading, fuel, engine status. Everything stable, but Cho's inputs were hesitant, overcorrecting. The plane wobbled like a nervous bird. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Someone who's landed a C-17 with one engine and a bullet in her shoulder," she replied, already sliding into the jump seat. "Now tell me what's wrong with the captain." "Seizure, maybe? Or stroke?" "He's unresponsive." Elena nodded. "Then you're flying solo. And you're about to get a lot of help." She reached for the radio. "New York Center, this is Flight 227. We have a medical emergency. Captain incapacitated. Requesting immediate vector to nearest suitable airfield with emergency services." Static. Then, Flight 227, roger. "We have you. Gander is your best option. Winds 270 at 15 knots. Expect runway 22. "Copy," Elena said, her tone now calm, authoritative, the voice of someone who'd commanded squadrons. Cho stared at her. "You're not certified for this aircraft." "I'm certified for worse," she said, eyes locked on the horizon. Now listen carefully. I'm going to talk you down. You fly. I guide. Understood. He swallowed. Nodded at as Elena began walking Cho through descent procedures. Something unexpected happened that a new voice crackled over the emergency frequency. One knot from air traffic control. Flight 227. This is Viper 1. We're airborne and inbound. Request permission to escort. Elena froze. Viper 1 at her old call sign. She hadn't heard those words in years. Cho looked at her confused. Who's Viper 1? Before she could answer, another voice joined. Viper 2, also en route. ETA, 5 minutes. Then a third. Viper 3, holding position. Ready to assist. Elena's breath caught. Her hands, steady moments before, trembled slightly. She keyed the mic, voice thick with emotion but controlled. This is Biped actual. Acknowledge all Vipers. Maintain visual separation. Stand by for escort protocol. Silence. Then, in unison, Roger, Viper actual. Welcome back. Cho's eyes widened. Biped actual? That's a squadron commander's call sign. Elena didn't answer. She stared out the windshield. And there they were, .3 F-22 Raptors sliced through the clouds like blades of light. Sleek, lethal, beautiful. They formed up on the 777's wings, one above, two flanking, their afterburners glowing faintly in the night. Passengers gasped. Cameras flashed. Someone sobbed. In the cabin. The man from 14B whispered, "Is that for her?" No one knew. But in the cockpit, the truth was unfolding. Years ago, Captain Elena Voss, call sign Viper Actual, led the 94th Fighter Squadron, the hat-in-the-ring unit, one of the most decorated in Air Force history. She'd flown combat missions over Syria, intercepted Russian bombers near Alaska, and once, during a classified op over the Black Sea, engaged a hostile drone swarm that nearly brought down a NATO AWACS. She'd saved dozens of lives that day, but took shrapnel to the lung and a traumatic brain injury that ended her flying career. The Air Force offered her a desk. She walked away. She changed her name legally to Elena Voss, her mother's maiden name, and vanished into civilian life, haunted by the belief that she'd failed her wingmen by surviving when others didn't. She never told anyone who she was. Not her neighbors, not her colleagues, not even the man she'd almost married. But the Air Force never forgot her. When Flight 227's distress call went out and her name appeared on the passenger manifest, Elena Voss, former USAF, 94th FS, someone in NORAD made a call. Within minutes, 3 Raptors from Langley were scrambled, not just to escort, but to honor. Because Viper Actual was back in the sky. With the Raptors flanking them, Cho's confidence grew. Elena coached him through every step: speed reduction, flap extension, gear deployment. Her voice was steady, precise, laced with the rhythm of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Flaps to 30. Trim nose up slightly. Good. You've got this. As Gander's runway lights appeared on the horizon, Elena finally leaned back. "We're going to land her perfectly," she said. And he did. The 777 touched down with a smooth thud, reverse thrusters roaring. Emergency vehicles surrounded the aircraft before it even taxied to a stop. Paramedics rushed the captain away. Passengers cheered. Cho turned to Elena, tears in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you." She nodded. "You did it yourself. I just reminded you how." Then she stood, gathered her small carry-on, and walked toward the exit. But as she stepped onto the jet bridge, a voice called out, "Ma'am." It was a young Air Force officer in dress blues, flanked by 2 F-22 pilots in flight suits, that he saluted sharply. "Captain Voss, on behalf of the United States Air Force, thank you." Behind him, the 3 pilots snapped to attention and saluted in unison. Elena paused. Then, slowly, she returned the salute, crisp, perfect, the way she'd been taught at the academy. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a failure. She felt seen. Later, as she waited in the airport lounge for a rebooked flight, a reporter approached. "Ma'am, are you the woman who helped land the plane?" Elena sipped her coffee. "I just talked to the co-pilot. But the fighter jets, they called you Viper Actual." "Are you?" "I'm just a passenger," she said gently. "But today, the sky remembered me." She never gave her real name to the press. The story went viral anyway. Mystery woman saves flight, honored by fighter jets. Conspiracy theories bloomed. Some said she was a spy, others an angel. But those who knew, the pilots of the 94th, the generals at the Pentagon, they knew the truth. Viper Actual hadn't vanished. She'd just been waiting for the right moment to return. And at 30,000 feet, when the sky called her name, she answered, not with words, but with silence broken only by courage. 6 months later, Elena Voss accepted a position as a civilian flight instructor for the USAF, training the next generation of pilots. Her office wall held no medals, just a single photo, a Boeing 777 flanked by 3 F-22s taken from a passenger window. Beneath it, a plaque read, "The sky doesn't forget its own." And every morning, before class, she'd look up and salute the horizon.